In this Playwright tutorial, I will be discussing about how to create post API request using static request body in Playwright and TypeScript. Firstly, we will see the manual use case, and then we'll create a simple JSON file. So that is where we are adding the static API request body, and we will quickly create a spec file, and we will start automating the post API request using Playwright and TypeScript. And next, we are going to see how to print JSON API response, how to validate status code, status text, and also we are going to see how to validate what type of response we are getting it from the application server. And then next we are going to see how to validate the properties or keys from the API response. And finally, I will be talking about how to validate API response. Before we discuss the manual use case, so let's set up the environment. So we are going to use the booking API collections. So we have created this Postman collections during the API testing using Postman full course. So if you do not know about the Postman, you can simply refer this playlist in the YouTube. You can search with the Postman by tester stock. So here you will get the very first playlist, Postman by tester stock here. Go to this playlist and you can learn about the Postman. And next question you might be having, how you can get the this Postman collections, right guys, whatever the APIs we have created. So again, it is very simple. In the YouTube, we can search with the Postman collections by tester stock. So if you search with these keywords, so here you will get the very first video. So it is just 2 minutes, guys. So by referring this 2 minutes video, you can get the API collections, which we are going to use it in this full course of API automation testing using Playwright and TypeScript. Now let's see the manual scenario. So here I will be using the create booking API and this booking API. So let's take an example where I am trying to book the room in a hotel. So I'm providing the first name, last name. So this API is very much similar to the room booking in the hotel. So we will be providing all this information. So what is the total price, whether I have paid the amount or not. So what is the check-in date and what is the checkout date? And is there any additional need for this particular customer? Okay. So if I click on the send, so it is going to return me the one unique ID, booking ID. So by using this booking ID, so I can get the details about this particular customer. So what is the first name, last name? So what is the total price, whether amount is paid or not? And here you can see the check-in date and checkout date. And also you can see the additional needs. That's another attribute we are having in the API request itself. Whatever you are providing all the information over here, so that information will be stored in the application server. And finally, we got the API response as 200 and OK, right guys? So we are going to create the post API request using Playwright and TypeScript. So by using this particular URL and this API request body. So we will make the post API request, and after making the post API call, so we are getting the response as 200. So we will see how to validate 200 as a status code, and then we will see how to validate the status text also. Okay. So sometimes we will be getting the created here, right? So we will see both status code and status text, how to validate it. And next we are going to see how you can validate the all the properties or keys are present or not. And respective value also we will validate it. And if there are any nested JSON objects like this. So we will see how to validate the nested JSON object also. And finally, we will be discussing about how to validate the response type. If you see here guys, so this is returning us the JSON response, correct? From the application server. So it depends on the service. So some APIs might return the XML type of response also, right guys? So let's quickly go to the VS Code and we will automate this particular scenario. So here I'm firstly creating the one JSON file. So that is where I'm adding the this API request body. So I will copy this API request body and here I will go to the test-data folder. I'm creating one folder called API underscore requests. So inside this folder, I'm creating a file called post API request dot JSON. So that's it. I will add the post API request body here. So here I need to pass the first name and last name. So here you can give the any valid names or invalid names. So there is nothing like that. You can provide the this particular name only. So here I will provide Playwright TypeScript by tester stock. So similarly, I will give the last name as Playwright JavaScript by tester stock. So you can give the first name and last name. Even you can update the other property and respective value also. Doesn't matter. You can simply pass the string value here for additional dates. Even for dates also you can pass the string value. And for deposit paid you need to pass the boolean value. And total price is accepting the any integer value. So make sure that you are providing the appropriate details in this post API request body. So that's all about the creating the post API request body in the JSON file. So let's quickly create the fresh chapter here under the tests folder. So we are starting with the chapter 6. So let's create a chapter 6 here. So under chapter 6, I'm creating the new spec file called 01 underscore post API request underscore static dot spec dot ts. So that's it guys. We have created a fresh spec file. Now I will go to the one of the spec file and I will copy the test from the previous spec file. Again I will come back to the new spec file and I will paste it here. So I will delete all these unwanted lines and then I will update the test title here as create post API request using static file in Playwright and TypeScript. Now let's import the this JSON file and also we'll set the base API URL. So let's import the JSON file now by using the import statement. So here I will give the variable name as post API request. So here I'll say from, and then we have to specify the location of the JSON file. So here we have the test data folder. Under that we have API requests. Under we have the post API request.json file. So that's it, guys. We are done with importing the JSON file. So you can set the base API URL at the spec file level, or you can set it in the project level. So you can add the base API URL in the playwright.config.ts file also. So this is where you can add the base URL. But if you are working in the UI automation and also if you are working in the API automation, so this will create an issue, correct? So that's a reason for a safer side. So you can specify it in the spec file only. So here what I will do is, so firstly let's get the base URL. So here this is our base API URL. So I will copy this URL and I'll keep it in the .env file. So here I will give the keyword name as base API URL. Then I will assign the API URL as https://restful-booker.herokuapp.com. So we have to access this particular key to get this particular value. So again, I will go back to the spec file. So let's access the base API URL in the spec file. So what I will do here is in the spec file, so I will use the test dot. So here I will call to the method called use. So inside this use, I'm passing the one object called base URL. So this is where I'm accessing the .env property here. So here I'll say process dot env dot, and followed by that we have to specify the key name. So that's it, guys. So we are done with getting the base API URL. Now we can create the post API request. So I will come back to the our test. So if you see here, so here we are using the page for the UI automation testing. So if you are automating the APIs, so here you need to get the API request context. So that's the reason here I'm simply specifying the request, which is of type API request context, right? Now by using this request, I can create the post API request in Playwright. So let's quickly create the post API request now. So here I'll say await followed by that. So simply I will use the request object here dot, and here I'll say post. So this method is accepting multiple parameters, but I will pass only two parameters. First one is the URL and second one is we have to pass the API request body. So here we are reading the post API request body. So this we have to pass it here. So here I'm giving the property name as first data. For this data property, I'm assigning the post API request JSON object directly. So that's it, guys. Now here we have to specify the URL to create the booking, right? So let's go to the Postman, and this is where we are passing the unique URL. So let's copy that to create the booking. So let's paste it here. So that's it, guys. So after making this post API call, So it is going to return us the API response. So that's the reason here I'm assigning back to the one variable called post API response. So that's it, guys. So this particular variable is holding the post API response. So let's convert this response into the JSON response and let's print that. So here I'll say await followed by that post API response dot JSON. So this is another method which will convert your response into the JSON response type. So that's it. So once we convert the API response into the JSON type, I will assign back to the one variable called constant JSON post API response. So here I have assigned to the one variable called JSON post API response, right, guys? So we have to print this particular response body. So here I will print the JSON post API response by using the console.log statement. So here I'll say post API response. So before printing the JSON post API response, I will convert this into the string. So by using the JSON dot stringify. So here I am passing the JSON post API response plus. So I will pass the another two parameters. So second parameter here is null because I don't want to update this particular data here. So that's the reason I'm passing it as a null. And third parameter I'm passing it as a 2 to print the proper spacing in the JSON object. So that we are converting into the string. So after converting it into the string also, it should print the appropriate JSON type of data. So that's the reason I'm passing it here as a 2. So that's it, guys. We are done with creating the post API request using Playwright and TypeScript. Now it's the time to run the test and let's check the result. So I will run the test now. So let's go back to the our output screen. And if you see here, guys, so our test is perfectly working fine. It is passing. And here you can see that the booking ID. So same details we are able to see it in the our, our Postman API testing tool also, right? So here we are able to see the booking ID and rest of the booking details, right? So this is how you can create the post API request in Playwright. So far you have seen how to create the post API request in Playwright and also you have seen how to print the JSON API response. Now let's see how to validate status code, status text and response type. So if you go to the Postman, so we will validate the this status code as 200 and OK as a text. And also we are going to assert the content type as application slash JSON. So let's go to the VS Code and let's add the assertions. So here I will use the expect and inside the expect. So I will get the post API response dot status. So this status method will give me the status code. And after that, once I got the status code, I will be calling to the method called to be. And inside the to be, I can pass the expected value here. So in my case, 200 is the expected value. So similarly, I can validate the status text also. So there is another method called status text. So this returns me the status text. And if you see here guys, so we are having the OK as a text. So let's assert this also. So here I will say OK. Now let's add the validation for the response type. So once again I will use the expect, and inside that again I will use the post API response dot headers. So by using the headers, I am getting the content type here. So here I'll say content hyphen type. So this will returns me the content type from the post API response. And after that, here I'm using the to contain method to compare the response type from the API response. So expected value here is application slash JSON. So we are expecting the JSON type of response, correct? So that's it guys. We have added the validation for validating the status code, status text and response type. Now let's run the test and we will see the test results. And if you see here guys, our test is perfectly working fine. So let's go to the output. And if you see here guys, so our test is perfectly working fine and we are able to create the booking here, correct? So this is the new booking. So this is the positive scenario. So let's say intentionally I will pass the some invalid expected code here. So this time our test should get failed because whatever we are getting the response status code is different, and whatever we are expecting is different. Whatever we are getting from the application server is different. And if you see here guys, so status codes are not matching. So this is the expected failure, right? So this is how you can validate the status code, status text and response type in Playwright. Now let's see how to validate property names or a key names. If you look at this particular API response, so here we are having the property names under the booking JSON object. So we will see how to validate these key names which are present under the booking. And if it contains the nested JSON object also, so simply you need to follow that hierarchy. Let's say for example I want to validate the check-in key is present or not. So firstly you need to access booking, and after that you need to specify the booking dates. Then this particular booking dates JSON object should have the check-in key name, right? So firstly let's add the validations for the first name and a second name which is under the booking. So let's go to the VS Code now. So before I add the validations, so here I will add the some comments for understanding purpose. So here I'll say create post API request, and then so here we are printing the print JSON API response, and then here we are validating the API response. So here I will say at the end validate property array key names. So again I will use the expect. By using the expect we can validate the property name array key name. So again I will use the JSON post API response. By using this, so I will specify the this particular object, that is the booking as the JSON object. Under booking only we have the first name and last name, right? So that's the reason I will add the booking here after the JSON post API response. Then here I will call to the method called to have property. So here we have to specify the property name, which key you want to validate it. So here I want to validate the first name and last name. So let's add the first name and last name here. So let's copy the same line. Then I will add the validation for the last name also. So let's copy the last name and add it here. So that's it, guys. So let's run this test and later we will add the validations for the other keys which are present inside the nested JSON object. So let's run the test. And if you see here, guys, our test is perfectly working fine. So there are no failures, right? So we are able to create the fresh booking. So now this time, so we are going to validate the check-in field and checkout fields are present inside the booking dates or not. So let me come back to the VS Code. So again, I will copy the same lines of code and I will paste it here. So those two fields are present inside the booking dates. So that's the reason I will copy the booking dates object. So I will put it after the booking. So why I'm putting after the booking is, if you look at this structure, so firstly we have the booking and then we are having the booking dates. So that's the reason I'm entering the booking here, booking dates after the booking here. And let's specify the property name here. So first one is the check-in and the second one is the checkout. So let's add the check-in here and this one is the checkout. So that's it, guys. We are done with writing the code. So let's run the test now. So it should get pass. And if you see here, guys, our test is perfectly working fine. And if you see the output, so we are able to create the fresh booking. So there are no failures at all. And if you pass the, let's say for example, I will pass the incorrect field name. I'm expecting some other field inside the booking dates, but this field is not present. So if you see the this output of test run, so it will tell clearly saying that, so whatever you are expecting, so this is not found, right? So this is the expected failure. So far you have seen how to create the post API request, how to validate the status code, status text, and also you have seen how to validate the property names or a key names. Now let's see how to validate API response body. If you look at this API response, so we are getting the booking ID. So firstly, we will check this booking ID is greater than 0 or not. And also we will make sure that whatever we are passing the first name and last name, that same value is present in the response or not. And also we will validate the nested JSON object respective value. It can be the check-in date or a checkout date. Whatever we are passing it, the same value we should get it in the API response. Let's go to the VS Code and let's assert the firstly booking ID. So here I will say validate API response body. So that's it. Now here I will use the expect to validate the API response body. So I will take the JSON post API response, and by using this I can get the booking ID. If you look at this postman API response, so we are getting the property name as booking ID. So we have to make sure that this value is not 0. Always it should contain the some numeric number. So that's the reason I will take this booking ID, and here I will call to the method called to be greater than. So here I will say 0. So this booking ID should be always greater than 0. So that is the expected result what we have. So if it is 0, that means it is not created a proper booking, right? So this is how you can assert the booking ID. Now let's assert the first name and last name. So first name is present inside the booking. So that's the reason. So after the JSON API post API response, so I will add the booking, and then here I'll say first name. So here I want to compare the first name from the API response with the actual value, sorry, expected value. So here I'll say to be, and here we have to specify the expected value. So let me copy and paste it once again. Here I want to validate the last name also. Now let's specify the expected value from the JSON request body. So this is what we are passing on to the application server by using the post API call. So this is the first name. So let's add the first name here. And this is the last name. So let's add the last name in the expected value. So that's it, guys. So let's run this test, and later we will validate the nested JSON object values. So let's run this test, and it should get pass. So it is not working fine because in the previously we were discussing about validating the property, right? So here we were added the incorrect value. Let's add the proper value so that it will work fine. So here I'll say checkout now. So let's run the test, and there should not be a problem now. And if you see here, guys, so our test is perfectly working fine. And if you see the output here, so it is passed, and we are able to create the fresh booking here, correct? Now let's add the validations for the nested JSON object value validation. So I will copy this particular line. So I want to validate the check-in now. So which is present inside the booking dates. So I will copy this. So firstly we have to add the booking, then booking dates, and after that we have to specify the check-in field name. So here I have added booking, and then I will add the booking dates. Then here I will add the check-in. And here we have to specify the expected value. So expected value is present inside the our JSON file. So let's get the expected value. So that's it, guys. So let me add the checkout validation also. So here I'll say field name as checkout. So let's add the expected value here. So whatever I'm passing in the API request, same data should be present in the response also. That is what I am trying to make sure here. So here we have added the validations for the nested JSON object values. So if I run this test, and it should work fine. And if you see here, guys, our test is working fine. So there are no failures. So if you see here, so this is the unique booking ID what it has created. So if you pass any incorrect expected value, so this test will get failed. So this is how you can create the post API request by using the static file in Playwright and TypeScript.